And welcome everybody to another wonderful episode. I know it's been a little bit since it's been a minute since we've had a show, but we're back. We have stuff to talk about now, at least. That's different. we have we have a guest joining us today. Stan, how are you doing?
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Stan. And I understand today is your anniversary.
It was actually yesterday, but yeah, we'll keep it going.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk about that in just a moment here, because I wanted to have Stan on the show, because I also noticed that you've had like a little bit of a following on Twitter today as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. The everybody who sides with Monica, or just in general against or with cancel culture, have just jumped on my Twitter thread. They came to my thread and posted.
Well, as I understand, you tagged literally every one of them, right? I mean, like that's the reason they came out of the woodwork to come after you, right?
Yeah, I blind tagged everybody.
You blind tagged everybody that has been involved in this entire situation. That's exactly why they all decided to come out and have something to say today of all days.
Of course.
There's nothing else to talk about in the world right now, right? There's nothing else possibly going on in the United States right now worthy of
Oh,
talking
with
on Twitter about.
riots and shutting down highways and beating cars and
Not like there was like a huge ruling in the Supreme Court recently that people have been literally screaming about that probably should be on these people's radars, but no, they decided to come out and attack Stan Dahlin on his own
of
thread.
course, it's like they couldn't go. They sort of glossed over the first ruling. I mean, there was some rumbling there, but not as much as the next one, which happened yesterday. And we knew that was going to happen.
Oh yeah, that
And
was gonna be a train wreck. So
screech, screech.
before we jump into the um, absolute atrocity of what you did in tweeting something out today, which usurps anything else in the news, because that's going to be our main story today. The absolute pure genocide of what you did on Twitter today. We'll talk about we'll talk about the ruling just very briefly, because holy cow! Yeah, Stan is more important and evil than the Supreme Court. Exactly. So that is our main story today. So we're gonna let people trickle in before we start talking about it. But yeah, Stan, I guess spoiler alert. You've already heard what happened in the Supreme Court with the overturning of Roe versus Wade. If I got that correctly. What are
Yep.
your thoughts on it, sir? As an American, like, you have more of an opinion than I do because you actually live in the country. What is your opinion on that?
Well,
I'm sure you've seen a billion
it's,
of them this week.
I've seen them. It's not like this topic has not been hanging around for eons and much debate over it. And someone that I used to listen on radio a long time ago had mentioned, if they overturn Roe versus Wade, nothing would change other than it would go back to the states, and the states would then decide on the issue,
Yeah,
which is, states' rights.
yeah,
And this was a couple, at least 3 decades ago.
yeah.
And what happened? Exactly what happened. Now, someone's been saying online that why is a whole bunch of Planned Parenthood clinics closing because of this ruling? And I'm like, that sounds strange. Maybe that's, Planned Parenthood claims that they do other things than abortions. So why would they be closing their shops
Yeah.
if that's not the only thing they do? Maybe because that is the only thing they do.
It's probably paying the bills, to be honest. It's probably the only monetary thing that is keeping them afloat. Because I would assume any sort of medical procedure, regardless of how severe or minute it might be, would be extremely expensive and extremely lucrative in the United States. That would be my guess.
Well, Planned Parenthood is one of those organizations that gets some of their money from the government.
Ah.
So,
Well, maybe the government coffers are closing up on them.
well,
Won't be able to do that no more.
Who knows? Who knows? Something.
It's very interesting though. I too saw a lot of nonsense flying around about how the Supreme Court ruling somehow magically created laws that never existed before, and that somehow people need a law to tell them that they're allowed to do something. That was the biggest weird thing for me. It's like, well, how can people have abortions now if they aren't told they're allowed to have abortions? You just go and do it, unless there's something explicitly stating that you can't.
Absolutely, until you get arrested. I would think that would be a prime example of, hey, maybe I can't do it. Oh, they screeched about the Texas law, abortion law. Guess what? It doesn't go after the woman who has the abortion. It goes after everybody else.
Yeah.
Not associated with the woman.
Well, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, Stan. Come on now. You've been dealing with this for 3 years, in different capacity. You don't let pesky facts get in the way of a good story here. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. I had this big argument yesterday with people. It's like, look, it scares me. It scares me that people are freaking out about gaining liberty back. Like, you're gaining autonomy over your own choices. Like, why do you need the federal government to mandate that you have a choice? Like, why are you? That is the most totalitarian thing I've ever heard of my life. It's like, I need daddy government to tell me that I am allowed to do something before I do it. No, you don't. You just do it, unless there's a law that says you can't do it.
Well, then you got those people who are they're free-minded people.
Yeah.
Except when it comes to the other person.
Exactly.
And they're like, what are you doing with your money? You should be giving your money to the poor. I'm like, excuse me, whose money is it?
Exactly.
It's not yours. And it sure as hell isn't the government's.
Exactly. And it's like, this is why I'm bringing this topic up in regards to the situation we're going to talk about in just a moment here, because these are like very similar mindsets, right? Like, I was talking about this on my Twitch stream yesterday about how America was founded because Britain sent a whole bunch of people over to America to colonize it, and then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, you have to pay us because you're over there. And America's like, well, what the fuck are you talking about? You aren't even helping us. Fuck you. You can't tell us what to do. We're independent. We're doing our own thing. Screw you guys. You can't tell us what to do remotely because you aren't over here dealing with what we're dealing with. Fuck you, we're independent. And now, fast forward like almost like 200 years later, whatever. Now you have Americans trying to tell other Americans across the country what they should do, when they have no bearing or no anything on the situation. That's the entire point of your... Correct me if I'm wrong here, folks. This is the entire point of your fucking constitution, is that you are, like, as a state, retain your independency and your own rights to govern yourselves, but collectively together you run as a country. Like, you work together as a country, and all that stuff is you're stronger united. But the whole reason that you have independencies between your states is so that California can't tell Texas what to do, Texas can't tell New York what to do. New York can't tell Nebraska what to do because they don't fucking live there. They don't pay the taxes there. They don't contribute to their societies there. They're separate. And that's the whole point. And that's the whole point of why federal overreach, which was what Roe versus Wade was, federal overreach, the federal government telling every individual state how to run their business, that is against the Constitution. As far as I understand. And I'm a fucking Canadian. I shouldn't know this stuff, but I do. But as far as I understand, that's how it's supposed to be. And the fact that there are people out there screaming and crying and burning and looting and whatever else and shooting people because they regained the fucking liberties that their Constitution allowed them, like afforded them, that's terrifying to me. That's terrifying.
God forbid if somebody fights back from your tyranny upon other people.
It's incredible because the government, the federal government, doesn't even have to do anything. They don't have to lift a finger in this situation because it's the everyman out there fighting this fight for them. It's people out there demanding that they have to have government tell them what to do. What are we going to do if federal government's not going to tell us that we're allowed to do something? Well, it's in your state's hands. It's in your state governor's hands. Now, if you have a problem with your state outlawing a certain thing, whether it's gay marriage, if your state outlaws gay marriage, if your state outlaws polygamy, if your state outlaws abortions, and you have an issue with that, you as an individual in that state have more control in changing that governor than you do the president of the United States, than you do changing the Congress or the Senate or what have you. You have more control over that, over your own state, than you do over the federal government, and you should be happy that Roe versus Wade got overturned, because as individuals, you can now fight that even harder than you could at a federal level. So
and there's the key word.
Yes.
Individuals. Everybody is nowadays in the group think.
Exactly.
I'm part of this group. I belong to this group. I represent this group. We should have group rights, not individual rights. My
That's
right
terrifying.
is based on my group identity. I'm like, sorry, but this country was formed on individual rights.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what gender you are, what planet you're from.
Right?
Well, in some cases it would.
But
Superman became an illegal American.
He did. It's true. It's amazing that and I don't know where this came from, or because this is apparently been a long time shift. I don't know where this came from, and like people are mad that in California can't dictate to the rest of the country. Like, this is what we have in Canada, folks. We have in Canada what these Americans want, which is unfortunate because we still have colonial ideals here and Commonwealth ideals here in Canada, whereas the few dictate to the many, right? So I'm perfectly happy just giving a quick rundown for people who are not aware. Americans have the unique opportunity to have individual states govern themselves and be free of federal overreach. That is constitutionally baked in to your country. In Canada, we don't have that. In Canada, we're obligated to help each other out. So Ontario and Quebec are the two largest populated provinces, equivalent to states in Canada. Every other province in Canada has to help out Ontario and Quebec, because if Ontario and Quebec are not doing well, then the other provinces have to pay us to keep us afloat. That's in our constitution. That's in our little charter or whatever else, the way that we run our country. That's what Americans want. For some reason, they want one state to dictate to the rest of the country and do everything their way. And that's, as far as I know, that's not the way for liberty. That's not the way for, that's not the American way. That's not the way it should be. And that's the way that's the way that, why those two provinces specifically, Ellie? Because we're the highest populated population density. And like basically the hub. So if you look at Canada's population, like 80% of Canada's population is in Ontario and Quebec. And basically, if something goes wrong in Ontario or Quebec, because they are the two major centers of Canada's economy, the entire country could go tits up. So we have a have and a have-not system. So have-not provinces get propped up by have provinces. So provinces that are doing extremely well financially, they give out handouts, they give out money to prop up provinces that are not doing well, so that in times when they are doing well, the other provinces aren't. It can go back and forth. Ideally, it doesn't work out that way, but that's the system that we have in Canada, and it's kind of breaking down after 150 years. It doesn't work so well when you have 30% of the country dictating to the other 70% of the country how to live. Because how life is in southern Ontario is very different from how life is in northern British Columbia, or in Alberta, or in Nunavut. It's very different. It's the same thing in the States. And for some reason, I don't know why, individuals like the people we're going to be talking about here in a minute, they have this idea that their way of life is the best way of life, and that should apply to everybody else. But the way of life in Texas would not fit in New York, and New York would not fit in Florida, and Florida would not fit in Utah. There's reasons why these areas have different laws, have different ways of doing things. And in my opinion, government should have the absolute least input on our daily lives. And these psychopaths are out here fighting on behalf of big brother government, demanding that government come in and dictate to us what to eat for dinner because they don't want to make decisions. It is absolutely insane. And this brings me to my point of what we're going to be talking about today, because I think I've bored enough people with political talk. There's a whole point to this. We've seen over the past 3 years what Stan's been going through here. He's been dealing with being gaslit. He's been dealing with being personally attacked, gone after, over something that Stan didn't even participate in until he was dragged into it. And this was not something that was done with Stan's prior approval. No one reached out to him. Nobody said, "Oh, hey, do you remember this time?" Here's the thing, folks. If you're going to use a work reference or use anybody as a reference, fucking check in with them. Number one, to see if they remember you. Number two, to see if it's favorable for you. Because we're on the anniversary date. We're on the anniversary date of Monica Rial dragging Stan Dahlin into a lawsuit, kicking and screaming. And not only that, when Stan didn't immediately corroborate her story, she then tried to assassinate his character. Yes, Stan was literally name dropped. So Stan, take us back to that day 3 years ago, or however long it was. I think it was 3 years ago, right? At this point?
Yeah, at this point, yeah, 3 years. Basically, I get an email from my father. Might as well, I posted the email on Twitter for everybody to see that it came from my dad. So from some person who wanted to know my stake in this so-called battle between Vic and Monica.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first time I even heard about the infighting, because I basically decided, I left the industry back in
2013, the convention scene. And I
Right.
basically, prior to that, I had been tuning out of social media. I made my Facebook account pretty much private, um, with the exception of a very select few convention folks.
I have the email
And
up on screen here.
yeah, so everybody's going to see some details here, like personal details, like what my father calls me, and that's a story in itself.
Yeah,
Military family, so
of
that's
course.
so.
So we have a Jordan Means reaching out to who he thought, I'm guessing who he thought was Stan Dahlin, which turned out to be your dad.
Yep. I don't know how. Well, I do know he probably did a Google search, and there's a lot of photos of my dad out there.
Right.
But then you have to wade through the number of other Stan Dahlins that are in the United States, all across the country, including the Stan Dahlin who happens to be a professional hockey player, which I'm not that. I didn't even know that one.
So you had this random person reach out to your father
Mm-hmm.
on June 23rd, 2019, 3 years ago. Ask
Yep.
if you were aware that you're involved in this lawsuit. And then your dad was like, "How do you want me to answer this guy?"
Pretty much just tell him you have the wrong person, and then after sending that message, block the email from ever coming back to him. And I said I will deal with it.
So what happened after that? Like, what the heck was going through your mind?
Well, first of all, I was like, when I read the document, because it included the interrogatory, bullet point 4, and my first reaction was, what the hell is she talking about? Once I find out, look, they're infighting, and so get on the internet and start to find out what was going on. Find all kinds of videos and stuff, and then I started to immerse myself and got myself caught up as to what the hell was going on.
Right.
I did not find out about Kiwi Farms until after I dropped my affidavit.
Right.
That's when I found out about Kiwi Farms, and I have to blame that on Nick. It's like, so yes, I was watching Nick's
You were watching Nick's coverage?
show, his coverage, and the Umbrella Guy, and I was on his show. Emish covered it, and I pretty much looked at everybody's stuff,
Right.
to get people's takes, until I stuck with Nick, because Nick was doing more of a legal commentary on this fight.
Right. So,
But then
yeah, go ahead.
then when the deposition came out, then I started finding out what she said in regards to the incident in question, and my opinions still stay the same. I don't know what the hell she's talking about.
Well, what was going through your mind when you were listening to her list off apparently how you reacted in this situation?
I'm like, well, that's rich coming from you, Monica, considering you cited, you had Faisal Ahmed's supply you with an affidavit to say all this stuff about Vic, and when obviously Faisal didn't like Vic, period, mainly
Right.
because he felt Vic was cutting into AWA getting or even Qui-Gon getting other guests, which is kind of a load of horse manure. Um, because one, he never saw a contract with Vic and didn't even know what we had agreed upon, which I can do it with two fingers and do it a big O, and we kind of the OK symbol, the white supremacy, right?
The white
The
supremacist symbol.
big goose egg, other than flying him out and getting him a hotel room. That's what I paid Vic.
Right. Which, like, that's incredible. Usually for guests like that, you'd be paying out the nose for it, but
Yeah, I mean, other folks that are friends of mine, particularly coming off from the West Coast, who had to take a red eye and then show up the show on a Saturday morning, early morning, and get the ball running, or hit the ball running as soon as they got into town. They had an appearance fee, and then the airfare and the hotel, and yeah, it was some was not as bad as others,
Yeah, no kidding. So you had been reading up all this stuff, and you're just kind of floored from the sounds of it about, like, wow, I'm amazed that this happened. Did you hear from Monica at all between the time that she that she dropped this, which I guess was like about a week or two before that email that your dad received, to the point you find out? Did you when did you hear from Monica about that, or if at all?
July 11th.
Good Lord. That was the first and only time she reached out to you?
Yep.
So I do have that as well. 1 second here. Let me pull it up on stream. So she sent you a DM, right?
Yep.
She sent
Facebook
you a DM. If I can find the correct one. There we go.
There's a question in the chat. How did Monica get my name in the first place? I've known Monica just as long as I've known Vic, so at least 2 decades, 20 years.
So she sent you a DM July 11th, 2019. I have it right here. Wanted to apologize for not giving you a heads up about all this stuff. We haven't spoken in a while, and everything was happening so fast and furiously, I never got the chance to reach out to warn you. As I'm sure you've heard by now, Vic assaulted me, X'd out, at IzumiCon in 2007. Your name came up because you stopped the assault by knocking on the door. I love how she had to tell you what you did. You stopped the assault by knocking on the door, Stan. I'm sorry I never told you. I was too hurt and embarrassed. You saved me that night, Stan. I wanted to thank you, but I was in such shock. Again, I'm sorry I didn't give you a heads up. This case has been moving so fast and furiously. She keeps repeating herself, and this is very interesting. My legal team may try to get in touch with you to see if you'd be willing to sign an affidavit. I totally understand if you'd rather not get involved. Believe me, I just wanted to make sure that I reached out to you. I hope you and Eleanor are doing well. I think about y'all a lot. Take care. Yeah, she thought about you so much that she waited an entire month to contact you after she dropped your name in a court case. Yeah, she sure thought about you so much, Stan. Jeez.
Yep. And so when she first dropped the story, was what, in mid-February?
Yeah.
And it didn't get fleshed out until June. I think you had plenty of time to get in touch with me.
Well, I think she was just so I mean, looking at that, she was definitely scrambling in that DM. Did you reply to her on that, by the way?
No, because she unfriended me right after she sent that.
So she unfriended you immediately after she profusely apologized for dragging you into a court case.
Yep.
Incredible. I mean, it fits. It fits. I mean, she agreed to come on this stream, and set up a time and date. She picked the time. She picked the date, and then she and Ron just ghosted.
Yep.
So I mean, it fits the bill of behavior. That's incredible. That's incredible. So she, not only does she drag you into a court case, kicking and screaming, doesn't tell you, doesn't verify anything with you, tells you what you did apparently, instead of letting you figure out what you did, or just remember what you did, because apparently you have to be told because you're a child, and then immediately blocks you.
And sign an affidavit. Not provide an affidavit, but sign an affidavit.
Yeah, sign an affidavit.
So I'll write it, and you'll sign it. I don't think that's how it works.
Oh my goodness! Wow. I mean, she's trying to Chuck Huber you right now, Dan.
Oh, in her halftime podcast, oh man, she went all out to discredit me.
And this is the interesting part, right? Give me some insight into your thoughts on that podcast.
I'm like really. I'm searching for clout on Twitter. Really, I need clout. Clout pays the bills. I don't think so.
Yes, Stan, because as soon as you heard about the Vic Mignogna lawsuit, you jumped in head first and inserted yourself, right? That's how this happened.
Yeah, I just used my First Amendment right and started commenting left and right and to everything I saw, and to everyone that replied, and I'm like, really? So this is what's going on. No facts whatsoever, just throwing stuff out there to see what sticks on the wall. No.
Good
and
grief.
then making up stories left and right. I love the one where some guy will kind of hint, edging around on posts and comments that what he's trying to say is, oh, I embezzled money from AWA. I'm like, really? I committed a criminal act and I haven't been arrested. Gee, I wonder why. Oh, I was made to be fired. No, that's not true. How about throwing some actual facts? Oh, wait a minute. You're not in AWA. You weren't even a volunteer. You weren't an administrator. You weren't a supervisor, manager, or any position of leadership. And you seem to know that I was the CEO of AWA. False.
You were the godfather of AWA, don't you know?
In a way, yeah, I was kind of like, one of the original founding members of AWA. Was there from year one.
So when you, there's so many things that these lunatics are trying to just jump through right now. So many flaming hoops they're trying to jump through to discredit you. When Monica was the one that brought you into this to try and validate her own story, which backfired miraculously. But now we have some very apparently intelligent people on Twitter trying to say that, oh, well, this is a little thing called discovery, Stan.
Oh.
I mean, the discovery that Monica and Ron have been abusing. before they filed their TCPA.
Oh well, yeah, they are abusing because they're trying to get as much discovery from Vic, but none to
Provide
none in
none.
return.
Exactly.
And so
yeah.
and so asking the question because someone opened their mouth and said something, that's Vic's fault. I'm like, no, I don't think so. It's your
So
fault, Monica.
exactly. Exactly. So like the person reached out to your father not because Vic included you in anything, but because Monica was the one to include you. Monica was the one to name drop you. She was the one to include you in the documents.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fascinating to see how they've rewritten your statement so many times.
Vic, for the longest time, was very wary to talk to anybody. I mean, I'm not his closest friend, not his very closest friend, but I'm a very good personal friend of his. So he wasn't sure where I was in
Right.
all of this, and he was leery to find out because getting burned and backstabbed by Chris Sabat, and
Well, it weighs on you, right?
yeah. So
it's not a good feeling.
after so when I started, making public statements, I was saying, not really picking a side, but basically it was very obvious that I was leaning towards Vic, without actually saying it. That's when some of Vic's friends started telling him that he should get in contact with me.
Yeah.
And he texted me first, and then he called me, and we had a long conversation on the phone. And so if they want to get discovery on when I actually did that phone call, I'm sorry. Just like Vic, I kind of clear out my my contacts from time to time. You might have to get it from the phone company.
Well, there are ways. I'm sure it's not anything untoward. I mean, people change phones all the time. They clear out contacts and whatever else. They run routines on their phone to make sure that they clear out memory all the time.
Yeah,
that's just stuff that happens.
Yep.
And
even when their lawyer tried to get all the communications between myself, Slaytosh, Chuck Huber, and Vic, that talked with Ty, and I'm like, what's the story behind that? Why are you being nosy and wanting those kind of communications?
Yeah, it's so funny. We see this situation with Johnny Depp, right? We lived it 3 years ago through the trial, whatever else, or not even a trial. We didn't even get to trial.
Yeah,
we couldn't even get past a TCPA that was mishandled. But courts don't make any mistakes ever, Stan. Ever. They never do. I mean, that's why Roe versus Wade got overturned this week, right? Because the court definitely did not make a mistake before in letting that ruling stand for like 30 years.
Oh, and God forbid they get called out for it by other judges,
right? It's definitely no mistakes made in courts ever before. But when we look at this, we saw the stuff go down with Johnny Depp, and we saw the way that Amber Heard was approaching the situation. Did that not give you vibes, like flashbacks, PTSD flashbacks to what we were seeing? The games that were being played by Monica, Ron, et al.?
Well, by the time I got in there, they were limiting their contact with everybody.
Yeah.
So I got the third string people coming after me. Not them per se.
Right.
until this podcast, and then I got Jamie and Monica going, who is this person anyway?
Yeah, who is Stan Dahlin anyway? We just decided to drag him into a lawsuit, kicking and screaming.
I didn't name him. I was nervous, and it was during a deposition. No, Monica, it was not during your deposition. It was before the deposition.
It was before, during, and after. Like she's trying to revise history,
Rewriting history. Yep.
and I don't think she realizes that people have paid so close attention to this. You could probably tell. You could probably find someone that could tell you what pants Ty was wearing on the day in question. Like, people are so thoroughly crossed over on this case and on this. Like, people think that there was eyeballs in the Johnny Depp case. I mean, there was a lot of eyeballs in the Johnny Depp case, but people really did pay that much attention to this stuff as well in this proceeding. And
very much so. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're still waiting for a ruling from the appeals court.
Yep.
Which, as days go by and as cases go by, it's looking more favorable for Vic. However, Lord knows we live in clown world, so
yeah,
there's I have no idea how it's going to go. The way it should go is it should go to fucking trial. It should go in front of a jury, and it should have its day in court. It should not be swept up. Like, when we had Ron on the show, he himself even stated there's so many unanswered questions. Well, there's a way to figure out those questions. There's a way to get answers for those. It's called going in front of a fucking jury and having a fact finder decide what is fact and what is not. Get a definite decision. Having it dismissed on TCPA on a technicality that the judge didn't even understand, that doesn't answer anything. They can run around with the TCPA ruling and the dismissal and act like it went to trial and act like it actually had the facts read, but it didn't.
Nope.
Like, we've talked to
none of the evidence had been weighted.
No.
Or tested.
No. Nothing had been tested against anything. Nothing had been scrutinized. Nothing at all got looked at. Vic never got tested. Monica never got tested. It's only what we have from social media, reviewing it and looking at it and making decisions. Which, while that's great, I would prefer that to go through a court of law rather than a court of public opinion. But affidavits. But all the affidavits. I could go pay a homeless person to write an affidavit on what they believe to be true at that point in time. That literally is meaningless. Which is pretty much what they did. They got a bunch of nobodies who were not relevant to anything, giving basically character witnesses that are not admissible to try and sway the opinion of the court before anything even happened.
Oh, I love how they try to use 3 people who are convention staffers to try to collaborate their story or a narrative. And one of them, the head of security, I'm like, did you write in there that you were trying to cover up a potential crime? Is that what you're trying to say? Because if
It
that
was.
is, then you know, maybe we should be looking at you instead. You know, if your allegation is Vic had underage girls in his room, and the con was trying to cover it up by giving free passes or whatever he wrote in it, then maybe we should be looking at you instead of Vic. Because
Exactly. Well, it's so incredibly ironic, right? We saw the same people that have cast down Vic and everything else like that. The same people coming out in support of Johnny Depp and saying and casting aspersions against Amber Heard. I wonder why, because they actually had a day in court. Well, they had several days in court.
6 weeks.
6 weeks in court. So they had a lot of time to go through, and there is undeniable that Amber Heard was a liar. Amber Heard thoroughly lost, and she got made a fool of. Now she's going on this pity tour. There's a bunch of people complicit in continuing to defame Johnny Depp, which that'll be interesting to see how that goes down.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the fun part. The exact same thing went down, minus a ruling, with Vic. Monica and Ron and everybody that came out got made to be a fool. If anyone took the time to look at actually what happened in that TCPA hearing, in that preliminary hearing, they were made complete and utter fools. They got shown to be liars. They got shown to be contradictory to each other. And the entire crux of everything that they're basing the entire defense on was that, oh well, Vic pulled Jamie's hair
and whispered something sexual in her ear.
Of course. That's the entire crux of, like, oh well, if Vic could have violently broken Jamie's neck, then how far stretches it? That's not how law works, by the way. If he did ruffle her hair and accidentally snag it and cause her a modicum of pain, and she didn't think at the time to say, hey, that hurt, you know, that doesn't mean, ergo, Vic, you know, did something untoward to Monica, which somehow translated into 3 separate stories that weren't even the direct reason for him being terminated.
Nope.
The amount of leaping from logic point to logic point to get to, oh well, Monica was telling the truth the whole time. It is ridiculous. And if you apply that logic to to other cases, like you look at the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing, then you would have to believe Amber Heard's ridiculous stories too. But these people don't, because consistency is not in their vocabulary. But look at this type of stuff. They're trying to shoot down people that they brought in as witnesses. They're trying to attack their own witnesses because their witnesses didn't agree with them and didn't agree with their narrative.
Yeah, particularly when one witness adds another witness and gets the same reaction
Exactly.
as I gave. You know, my friend Erica McCord.
Yep.
Basically said, "What the fuck is going on?"
Exactly. Like, she gets brought in by another one of the affiants. It's named, brought in without being talked to because, oh, she's in Japan. She won't be able to defend herself. She'll never hear about this.
Yeah, wrong.
Wrong.
Oh, you thought that Erica and I don't talk to each other anymore since I left the industry, and maybe we had this kind of awkward conversation over the phone when I called her at Anime Crossroads. You thought that maybe we had a falling out between the two of us. Wrong. Guessed wrong. No, we are still very close.
And people out here, when you announce and pop a cork on your 3rd anniversary of this, people out here on Twitter are telling you, psychopaths that have been obsessive about this to the point where they find you tweeting about it 3 years later and they tell you to get a life.
Oh yeah, particularly that one Canadian. Not to diss on Canadians, but this one particular Canadian who says get a life. I'm like, oh, that life, who was asking for panty shots from
Right?
the big rhino from Arizona.
Right?
So
look at the people who have been integrated. They've grafted themselves into their seats because they literally don't leave. They just stare at the computer screen waiting for you or myself or Nick or somebody to say something about anything. They have been trying so fucking hard for 3 years to get anything at all.
Please, Daddy, pay attention to me. Oh, I'm so sorry you're met with utter silence.
Like, seriously, it's almost like we have lives. Like yourself, myself, we have lives. It's like we're out there living. It's like we're not spending every waking moment we have on social media. Speaking of Canadians, can we talk about a certain leader to rile up Krez? Are you talking about Trudeau? I think people are idiots. I think people are really, really stupid. Because we keep, as Canadians, I'm going to sidebar for a second.
Go for it.
As Canadians, we keep putting in the exact same people in power, and we expect something different. But we don't want change because as Canadians, we love to complain about politics. So don't expect anything to change because we're going to keep putting in the same thing. Again, this goes back to the 30% dictating to the 70%. It's the definition of insanity. It's the definition of being a Canadian. We love complaining about politics. So why would we ever vote somebody in that would actually fix things? Because then we'd have nothing to complain about. So we keep voting in people that piss us off because it gives us something to talk about. That's literally what it is. And so people trash Trudeau and everything else like that for the stupidest things. But they don't do anything to fix it. So they can all shut up. Just shut up about it. Because no one's doing anything to fix it. We voted him in like years ago because he campaigned on the promise that he was going to change the way that we have elections. He was going to scrap the first past the post system, which has been a broken system for many, many decades. He was going to scrap it and replace it with something that would represent Canadians' votes and voices and interests. When he got in power as a majority, he's like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. That right there should have signaled every single person that voted for him to say, you know what? Fuck you. But you know what it did? Nothing. It did absolutely nothing. Because people who voted for him, that hate him, that don't like the liberals, that don't like their ideals, will still vote for him even if he eviscerates a small child on national television days before the election because they simply don't want to vote anywhere else. And that, my friends, is Canadian politics. People don't want to vote outside of party lines because they're afraid of losing. I don't care if the person I vote for wins or loses because they're all bad. They're all exactly the same. They're just different colors. In an election, in a system, a government system, where people can literally walk the floor and change teams that are supposed to be, they're on that political party for an ideal. They are an ideal. They are a conservative or they are a liberal or whatever else. That is their political ideal. That's why they're on that party, apparently supposed to be. That's not the case. People join these political parties because it gives them, in their mind, the best chance to get a seat. It is the Pepsi and Coke of politics, and that's where we've gotten down.
No, that's quite all right, Trent. We're
No, it's totally fine, Trent. We started off with political talk, so I'm totally
we
okay.
started off with Canada. We're cool.
Doug Ford is worse too. Doug Ford literally three-stooged his way through the election and won an overwhelming majority, the biggest majority that they've ever had in history. He literally, banana peeled his way to a freaking supermajority for no reason. This is where we are in Canadian politics right now. And this is why no one has a fucking grain of salt that they can put into this. It's everybody in Canada's fault. The way that we've gotten to this, because this is the way that, as a Canadian, that's what we want. We want to be in peril. We want to complain because, that's the most Canadian thing to do. Politicians are clowns.
Hey, Demon, well, that is still true. Some women will look at a candidate and think, yes, I would like to jump that person in bed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's still possible. That's still the same. That's
Absolutely. Yep. See, the conservatives, and I'm sure this works.
I'm sorry.
No.
I hate the fact that some people think the pajama boy from Georgia and the other pajama boy from Texas, that people want to jump in bed with them. A bunch of...
See, the problem is politics and politicians, they don't get people in there that would actually make meaningful change. They get people that would get their party the most money. They get people in there that are well connected, that would be able to get sponsorships, that would be able to get them paid. It has nothing to do with political acuity. It has nothing to do with ability or knowledge or getting stuff done. And it's been like this for a long time. And it's the people's problem because we keep putting these people in. We keep putting people in that do this over and over and over and over, and we expect them to listen to us when they have literally shown that they're not going to listen to us, and instead they're going to put a cigarette out on our babies' faces, and we're like, you know what, that's okay, we'll still give you the keys. We'll still give you the keys. So why do you think they're going to change? They're never going to change. They're not going to change until we force them to change. until we start voting people in that are different, until we start pushing political parties that are not mainstream, until we start getting independents in seats, until we start shaking the foundation of the two-party system in the United States and the big five parties in Canada. Until we start doing that, we're not going to see change. And that comes down from people actually getting off their fucking seat, actually logging off of Twitter, and actually going down to a fucking polling station. People out there screeching about shit on Twitter. People out there screeching about decisions, blah, blah, blah. Get the fuck off social media, get on the streets, go out there and get something done. Go ahead, Stan.
Or you can legally change your name to none of the above and get it on the ballot
Exactly.
as such, and you'll win that way.
Exactly.
Which happened in Mississippi.
That'd be fucking hilarious.
Action toys. If there was a bunny ranch, where would you put it in Canada?
You should make prostitution legal and regulate it. Change my mind. Well, there's been a discussion about that for many, many years. About sex work and making sex work regulated. Consider the Roman Senate. They are the cream of example of political corruption. We have political corruption all over the place. It has been this way for many, many years, and funny enough, we keep asking the government to cut back liberties in favor of them telling us what to do. But daddy government, I wasn't told I'm allowed to do this or not. Please regulate and delegate to me what I am supposed to do. Please mandate that I have to go here and I have to do this and I have to say yes or I have to say no. We have a fucking generation of people that are literally begging right now for the government to regulate their daily lives. Federal governments. I had an argument with an idiot yesterday on Twitter because he said the overturning of Roe versus Wade means that abortions are banned everywhere now. No, it doesn't. He's like, but now states can go in and ban abortions. Yes. That doesn't mean that Roe versus Wade caused that. Roe versus Wade removed the federal government from telling you what to do. That's what removing Roe versus Wade means, that you got your liberties back. Now, if your state is coming in and telling you what to do, they're taking your liberties away. And there's a very easy way to fix that. It's a much harder way to fix the federal government taking your liberties away without resorting to violence. Which I think, like, this is, people should be celebrating it, not because of anything it did for abortions. That aside, I think people should be celebrating the overturning of that because it gives liberty back to the people. Now, if the states want to step in and mandate things one way or the other, then the people have to stand up to the states and say, look, it is my decision as an individual. That is my power. That is my decision. Don't tell me, get out of my life. Stop mandating my day-to-day activities. But there are too many people out there that are begging governments to mandate their daily activities. No, exactly. Distract enemies. You realize that no one can comprehend the decisions released. Nobody can. Nobody understands what that means. There are so many people out there that think that the overturning of Roe versus Wade just created this massive swath of new laws. No, it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It created more freedoms. There may have been some states that signed into law certain things after that decision came down. Absolutely. that means that those people that are doing it, those people are authoritarian, totalitarian. Those people are dictating to you, the people, that you don't know what you're doing, that you don't have autonomy over yourself, and those people should be replaced. It sickens me to see how many people cannot understand that. And they're blaming the Supreme Court of the United States for making up things that don't exist. There are no new laws saying that abortion is banned. There's no new laws saying that coming from this ruling. Any new laws like that are coming from the states themselves.
Yep.
And it should be taken up with the states.
And a lot of them are in appeals, and they're based on what the Supreme Court was saying. And
Absolutely.
And now they will get ruled on by the appeal court.
Absolutely.
Now that the Supreme Court has ruled on it.
The Supreme Court has ruled.
So all those states that had some form of abortion ban,
He's on me.
yeah, they're waiting their day in court.
Exactly. Why do you pay for public education when no one can read? Because public education is not in the interest.
It's government education.
Exactly. Public education is not in the interest of educating people. Public education is in the interest of making good little public servants. If you're wondering why, over the past 30 years, we've moved away from practical things and we've moved more to ideological things, why do you think civics has been taken out completely 20 years ago from education? Why do you think that it is no longer, it's no longer, you're not able to go into a public school and learn how the government operates and what the jobs of government are supposed to be? The fact that people can't figure out that federal government is not meant to give you a day-to-day agenda of what you're supposed to do. People are out there screaming that the federal government is not doing their job because they're not being told that they can or can't do something. That's not the fucking federal government's job. That's not what they're supposed to do.
Government job is laid out in the U.S. Constitution, and God forbid anybody follow that.
It's supposed, like, they have their own stuff to deal with. Then state government has their stuff to deal with, neither of which has any fucking business to tell the citizen how to live their life. It would be federal overreach, and that was what Roe versus Wade was. Roe versus Wade was federal overreach. It was the federal government dictating to the states how to run each individual state. And that is, my friends, is against your Constitution, and that should be celebrated that it was stricken and overturned. It should be celebrated yesterday, but instead you have people begging for a totalitarian rule. People begging to be told what to do. And that should be more terrifying than fucking anything.
And people dictating to other folks to riot in the streets, bring harm to other folks who disagree with them.
Absolutely.
And bring harm to the justices that brought this ruling.
Absolutely. When they're doing their job. Out of everybody, the justices that made that ruling were the only ones to do their job in that situation. The government didn't do their job. The states didn't do their job. The Supreme Court of the United States was the only one in the situation to do their job. What you don't understand is why people are acting crazy over all of this. For God's sake, there are shootings and shit over this. Absolutely savage, because they're good little government servants. Because they've been taught this way since public school. The government doesn't have to the federal government doesn't have to lift a finger. You want to talk about dictatorships and totalitarianism? We're living it right now. We have had a brainwashing of the public system to make anything at all. People don't know what the role of government is. And that has been by design for the past 50 years. It has been slowly phased out from the public school system about what the role of government is supposed to be. And now you have government, they don't even have to say anything. You have every man out there fighting the fight for them. Literally begging for the government to tell them that they can do something. Begging. Oh, please, government, I can't leave my house. Can you please tell me I can leave my house? It's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. You have an entire generation of people that literally can't do anything unless they are told by a superior to do it.
Yes, Sotomayor is a joke.
It's like we laughed like when I was a kid. We laughed at the cartoons where people would have the headset. And they'd be like, they have the headset going, and the Discman that they were playing, or like the Walkman that they're playing, would be breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, right? And then their batteries would die, and then they would start suffocating because they wouldn't know what to do. That's what we live in right now. People are looking to the federal government to tell them how to live their lives. When the Supreme Court ruling, all it did was remove the requirement for all states to allow abortion. That didn't mean that all states now can not all states can't have abortions anymore. That was never a thing. Some states had ruled that abortions were illegal, what have you, after a certain amount of weeks. That's standard across the world. The point here is you could still have elective abortions. No one was saying you couldn't. A couple states signed into rule that you couldn't, but that's in the individual state. And then people in that state have the ability to challenge that. As a Californian, you're not allowed to go to Indiana and tell Indianans what to do, whatever the hell they're called. You can't go there and tell them how to live their lives. What you can do is you can go to your California government and dictate to them, it's like, hey, this is how we want things to run in our backyard.
Or their government will do it for them and make their lives a total messed up life.
It blows my mind. Because I get it. This might take a bit more steps to get done. This may take a little bit more to get done now because of a thing that shouldn't have been in place in the first place. But now the people have more control over this than ever before. And the fact that people are mad about that should be scaring people more than anything, because this is bigger than women's rights. This is about your constitutional rights. This is about your individual rights as a person. This is men and women. This is black and white. And Hispanic. And Asian. And whatever else. This is everybody. This is protecting your rights as an individual citizen. And you have people out here that are begging for the government to take that away. When it's not their job. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. So basically, by mind controlling and brainwashing, the position of power is reversed, even though it shouldn't be. It has been sown that way, largely because if you look at it, Savage, the public school system. When was the last time you heard of a public school system teaching basic knowledge about life? When was the last time that you saw the public school system teach people how to do their taxes? Right? When was the last time you saw the public school system teach people how to upkeep their house? Basic life knowledge things. How do you cook for yourself? I'm not saying for a family. I'm not saying for a husband or a wife. How do you cook for yourself? How do you home make? How do you take care of your children? How do you take care of the elderly? When was the last time you saw the public school system teach you how your local government works, how your state government works, how your federal government works? When was the last time you saw the school system teach you how politics in general work? Do people know how political parties are formed? Do people know the role of political parties? Do they know the limitations? There's a reason why all of this got stripped away from the public school system in favor of teaching people frivolous bullshit like calculus. How many times in a day do you use calculus? And why is it being taught in grade 3? This is what I'm talking about. There's so many things that have been inserted and ripped out of the public school system in favor of frivolous nonsense. You have people out there that are mindless drones now that can't go to the washroom without permission.
Sounds like a prison.
Sounds like a prison. It is institutionalized daycare that teaches everyone how to be a good little civil servant, don't question the government, and everybody out there, this is the thing too, it's mandated. You can't have a child not go to school. Because most areas mandate you to bring your child to school. You as a parent have a choice. You can do public school, you can do private school, you can do homeschool. You have to make sure your child is educated. It's not a choice. If you leave it up to the hands of the public schools, you're gonna get a nice little civil servant when that child graduates in charter schools.
Sadly, Trent, there are some folks that their lives would probably be much better if they were in prison.
Yeah.
And they do what it takes to get themselves into prison so that everything is taken care of by daddy government.
Absolutely. And I think people need to start realizing when government is telling you that you have to do something, that is when you should be paying attention the most. When the government is handing out mandates and saying you have to do this and we're going to make sure that you do this under punishment of, going to jail or removing your children or what have you, you should be taking notice. Okay, what benefits the government here? Why are they forcing us to do this? I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying pay attention. Because the government will not force you to do things that they don't care about. Government doesn't mandate you to vote, even though it's literally one of our few civil duties as a citizen of the country It is a civic duty to vote. We are actually required to vote by law. However, voter turnout has been what? Sub 50% of the population for how many decades now? It's dropped below 40% a number of times. So why doesn't the government come out and mandate voting? Because it would be against their interest. So they don't care. They don't care if 20% of the people come out and vote as long as they get in.
Well, except when the Orange Man ran.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then you come up to the conspiracy theories, but they just make votes up. But how do we? Like, is there a way to get back from this? I don't know. I think we're in a danger period right now. It's terrifying because looking at how many people are screaming and crying and calling foul and going to the streets and shooting other people over getting their civil liberties back is terrifying. It is terrifying. So I don't know if we can get back from this. It's going to take a lot of people to stand up and force change. It's going to take a lot of people to, instead of putting their children in the public school system, going through homeschool, going through private schools, going through charter schools. It's going to take a lot of effort. And I don't think that people are willing to do it. Because we need to, as people, before we have our liberties completely stripped from us, we have to start taking those back. We have to start voting in the people that are going to stand up for us. We have to start holding politicians accountable. When politicians don't uphold what they've promised us, they have to go. And the people that do follow through, we got to keep them in there. We have to, or else we're going to start seeing the same stuff. And we're going to have our liberties stripped away piece by piece by piece, and people are going to beg for it. People are going to beg to have their liberties stripped away. It's terrifying, and people should be scared about it. And the media won't say a damn thing about the violence or murder? Absolutely not. This is not in the media's best interest either. Because the world being on fire makes the media money. That's the sad truth of the situation that we're in. The world being on fire, drama makes dollars. It's the same thing for YouTubers. I mean, like, I'm not going to come on here on a show and talk about stuff if things are just, if there's nothing to talk about, there's nothing to talk about. So, everything is good is not great material. People, it's boring to talk about.
Unless you're having a happy stream, talk about being happy.
Exactly. It's talk about being happy all the time. There's plenty of safeguards in place so that voter fraud would not happen. However, as I've stated before, it's not in the government's best interest to stop voter fraud. As long as it's working for them, right? It's in the smallest party's best interest, absolutely, because they're the ones that are going to lose out on it. They're the ones that are going to want to fight against the corruption. The people that have got the seats of power, they don't care because they're the ones benefiting from it. And I would like to take a quote from somebody. The government should fear the people, because if the people fear the government, then that's a dictatorship. Government are civil servants. They are our servants. They serve us, the people, not the other way around. And people have seemed to have forgot that fact. And there's people out there, like some of the individuals we've talked about today. And hell, Ron Toye himself has even stated on this show that he thinks the Chinese ideal of a social credit system is a good idea. He's in favor of it. He stated that on this show. These individuals are begging for dictatorship. They want to be told how to live. They want to be dictated to. Government officials shouldn't make money, in my opinion. You should not be paid to be president or prime minister. You should not be paid to be a statesman. You also shouldn't be afforded anything. So when you're at work, your meals should be provided, your transportation should be provided, which it is. Your accommodations should be provided, which it is. But you should also not make money because you are a civil servant. You are at the pleasure of the people. And our tax dollars pay for you to be there. And you are at the mercy of the people. And you should be removed when the people see you unfit to be there. That's not the way we live, unfortunately. Governments over year have made it more and more difficult for individuals and the people to have a say. However,
particularly against government employees,
exactly,
who are not elected,
exactly,
who like to dictate to the rest of the folks what their little ounce of power that they have against us and our way of life.
Absolutely.
I'm going to do this, Chris, and I'll let you decide if you want to show it or not.
Oh boy, this is show and tell time.
Yeah, why not? They brought it upon themselves.
This is always fun. It's always fun. Show and tell time with Stan. Are you doing it on StreamYard or are you doing it on
StreamYard?
Perfect.
You should see it first.
Haven't seen it yet.
Let me make sure that I'm.
Keep your pants
I'm
on.
sorry. I'm. Okay.
Guys, if you're looking while Stan gets this loaded up here, if you're looking for confirmation on where Ron said that, by the way, it's in the third interview I had with him. The third interview, I described China's social credit system, and he actually said he would prefer that, and he thinks it's a good idea.
So was that on the third one? Was that also the one where he uttered, "You owe my fucking fiance money," or was that the second one?
I think that was the second one.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Here we go. Oh boy. Stan's sharing some interesting stuff here. Who is that lovely lady getting her hair wrenched back?
Seems like she's enjoying it quite well.
It seems as so, yeah. Huh. Yeah, it looks like it looks like she's getting assaulted here, right? By her own definition.
Yep.
Where were you, Stan? Where were you? You were supposed to be her savior.
Are you talking about in this photo or the other event?
In this photo, where were you? You're supposed to be her savior, Stan.
Oh, I might have been the photographer, maybe not. I don't know.
What I do know, there was a lot of women in this pajama party.
Yeah, it looks like it. Damn.
Well, this is only 3 of how many women that were at this particular pajama party. Oh, Ron was hinting that oh yeah, you threw pajama parties. Like, yes, I did, Ron. Are you jealous?
Damn.
And did you know that Monica was at these pajama parties?
And actively participating, but who are you, Stan? Anyways, like, really, who are you?
Oh,
Oh my
Hugh
goodness.
Hefner? No, I don't know.
Oh, I did hear. So yes, Dark Strange Nico is bringing. Was talking about this earlier. That Anime Expo. Ignoring the calls to invite Vic Mignogna, instead has decided to invite the scandal-ridden Damon Mills.
Wait. Did they actually put on their page that he's an invited guest?
Yes. Yes.
Or is he what they would call an industry guest? Because Expo used to do this little shady thing where they say, if you're an industry guest, and I'm not talking about their latest thing where they you buy a table from them for your signings and stuff. No, back in the day, Funimation in particular would bring a whole bunch of their VAs to Anime Expo, and they would do autograph signings at their booth, and then they would they would have panels and stuff like that. One of their guests, one of their VAs, came up to me and was complaining about the schedule that they were doing and how they're being run like dogs and stuff like that. And I said, you realize it's not the con that's doing that. It's your boss, your employer that's doing this.
Oh, curiously,
did you not know that?
Looking at the screenshot, it is industry appearance.
And then it's probably, if it's like that, it might be Crunchyroll that's doing it.
So even through all of the utter nonsense that we have seen, Crunchyroll is forcing Damon Mills into Anime Expo.
Yeah, yep, that's a good possibility. Yeah.
What an absolute joke. What a time to be alive.
Of course, I believe Tom. Oh, there's Tom. Tom P. Hey, Tom. I believe Vic said he was trying to get a table at Expo, but he hasn't heard back from them.
Well, I hope he does.
That's what he mentioned.
I hope he does get a table. Because that would be hilarious. That would be pretty funny.
They probably would deny it, and even if they did give him a table, they probably, all the screeching harpies would come out.
Of course they would. Of course they would. I don't remember what the context was. Just very briefly before we wrap things up here, because I think I have ranted enough. I think people have gotten their rant fill after guys, and first of all, I want to say it was a nice little vacation. It was a nice little vacation I had. The primary reason I haven't been having shows is because there really hasn't been a whole lot to talk about. There really hasn't been a whole lot of news to talk about. No problem, Tom. It's good to see you. I've been on Twitch. I've been streaming on Twitch, and you guys can still find me on there on Saturdays when I'm not doing shows here. The other... And I don't want to just have a show for the sake of having a show. I would rather have a topic to discuss, because I don't want to have every week be Damon Mills ate a fortune cookie. right? I don't want that to be that. I don't want to water down and push down topics and push down shows for the sake of having a show. I don't want to do that. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to the topics out there at hand. Ezra Miller going insane, yeah, that's hilarious. But
Yeah.
There's some stuff that comes up that it's almost enough for a show, but not quite. And I don't really want to harp on certain subjects too much until I have enough or I've reached a certain threshold. Like the whole, like there's stuff happening in the Quentin Flynn situation, in terms of that lawsuit that I'd love to talk about, but I don't want to make an entire show about it because there's other shows that would get pushed down and people wouldn't watch them in favor of the newer shows. But I want people to see the stuff on the older.
Still, we got to wait on some of that stuff.
Well, this is the thing. Here's the funny part. I'll give you guys an update because we're on the tail end of this show. I'll give you guys an update about that. So, Quentin Flynn's stalker, who is currently waiting a criminal trial for breaching her court order, up to this point has been getting continuation after continuation, which this is exactly what I called when she first did. I'm like, well, the smart thing is they're going to ask for as many continuations as the court's going to allow. And then as soon as they stop getting continuations, then she's going to make a plea agreement. That was my original forecast on it. She's going to push it off as long as she possibly can. Then she's going to plead out to something else. So she's reached the end of her. I was shocked when you came to Twitch there, Tom. She's reached the end of her continuations. She's apparently withdrew her counsel. This was the newest update. She filed a withdrawal notice, so her counsel is gone. She doesn't have a lawyer, as far as I understand. I don't know the full details of it, but it appears that she fired her lawyer. And it appears that the last thing that she has done is file for an appearance to change her plea. So I'm assuming, I don't know because I don't have access to the court documents, is that she initially pled not guilty. My assumption now is that she is going to plead out to a lesser charge and that she's working with the prosecution to do so. Not sure. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how that goes, but that would be my guess of the situation. We'll find out when that new date comes up. But she is filing to change her plea, and she fired her lawyer from the looks of it. So, again, these are things that I'd love to talk about, but they're not enough for a full show. And it's not really important enough to talk about. So I'll tweet about it. I'll allude to it, things like that, but that's about it. That's the reason why I really haven't had a show in about a month. It's also been really fucking nice out, so I've been enjoying the weather and I've been enjoying the summer. I've been having a life, Stan.
Yes, that's good.
I've been having a life.
Very good.
Incredible.
You're getting that vitamin D like everybody should be getting.
Exactly. Everyone, I'm out there touching grass, believe it or not. But there are people out there that are attached to that situation.
The grass in the forest and
exactly.
A lake.
Exactly.
Hell, I touched the ocean not too long ago.
For real.
Yeah.
But there are people out there attached to that situation too that are still so obsessed. They're trying so hard to get my attention. They're trying so hard to be relevant still. And it's so funny because they're getting slapped down by literally random people on Twitter now that are not even associated and that have never been associated with it. They are still trying to pull out the exact same carbon copy shit that they had from the start, and people are seeing through it and they're like, yeah, you're insane. Who the hell are you? So
when's the next court date?
That's a good question. I gotta look up the DM on that. It might be August. Sounds correct. I have the thing right here. To be a moment. I think. Here it is. The next one is August 22nd. That is the change of plea hearing. So, should be interesting to see how that goes. My guess is that she's going to plead to a lesser charge. Probably something that will not get her a criminal record. It'll be like a lesser misdemeanor. Because right now, her misdemeanor that she's in criminal court for would actually carry a criminal record. So I'm guessing she's going to try to avoid a criminal record. But, I'm not a lawyer. I have no idea. She could, best case scenario, the most entertaining case, like the most entertaining scenario in this entire thing would be if she fired her lawyer and wasn't intending to fight the plea in court. That would be like the best situation. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen at all. But that would be what I hope could happen. I don't think it's going to happen though. But it also it's funny because there's one of her whale orbiters on Twitter is getting married next month, and instead of focusing on her marriage, she's been tweeting nonstop. I'm literally not even kidding you. She has been tweeting nonstop about Quentin Flynn. She's going after anyone that has even been talking about Quentin Flynn, instead of doing anything to do with her marriage at all. So that's going to be a wonderful union, I'm certain. Because she's going to have to pry herself away from Twitter for at least like 2 days to get married. We'll see how that goes. But
maybe she'll be tweeting at the altar.
She could be tweeting at the altar. That's very true. This is very true. Get herself some Google
She'll
glasses.
be like, just one moment, honey, while I tweet this out during the vows.
Good Lord. Maybe she's
Hello,
like
Gab.
trained her fat folds to type on Twitter.
Yep. Hello, Gav. Nice to see you again. And the answer to your question is, of course I do. And I do.
Oh my gosh. So that'll be fun. And Quentin Stalker had stated that she wanted to travel to be a part of this wedding. Now the problem here is when you're in criminal court, you don't have the ability to skip the country. when you're in court for a criminal misdemeanor, it's not a very smart thing to do to state that you want to leave the country. I'm just gonna say that, just gonna put that out there. Maybe not the best things to do to put out there on the public spectrum, but Scary Kitty has completed 3 new voice reels. Let's go, Tom. You got this. Congratulations, Tom. All right. We have talked about a lot of stuff today, Stan. I hope you've been entertained.
Oh, I'm always entertained. Just talking with you is always a fun day.
I appreciate that.
And talking, well, I really don't want to talk about these screeching harpies. But they try their hardest, but
They do their best.
Weak sauce. I'm sorry, weak sauce. Try harder. Come at me with something a little more.
I really hope that they make an episode about me. I know they won't, because that would just give me so much to talk about. But I mean,
But you know they will.
I hope they do. I hope they do. Because you know what? Like, out of everything, I always maintain that I will give people the opportunity to come on to my show, state their claim, to state their piece, so long as they don't break the cardinal rule. Which, unfortunately, Monica and Ron have broken the cardinal rule. Whereas if you make a date and you don't tell me that you're not coming and you ghost me, that's it. You waste my time, you waste my viewers' time, that's it. You're done. I'll have anybody on at all. Don't care who it is. Whether I agree with you or disagree with you, I will have you on. So there are still some individuals in that spectrum that.
So if they ghost you during the show, that's not breaking the cardinal rule.
Well, if they show up and they're like, "Oh shit, I gotta go," that's different, right? But if they pick a time and a date and be like, "I'm gonna be there," and then I show up and then they don't say anything and then they don't respond to anything, then they're done. They're done.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mega pints. Let's go.
Mega pints. We all need some mega pints. So unfortunately, Monica, Ron, y'all broke that rule. Ron had 3 shows. So. But if Jamie wants to say something about me on her podcast, I'm more than happy. Be more than happy to extend an invite. So long as she doesn't break that cardinal rule.
I don't know. Yeah.
If she wants to come on here and have a test of wits, then more than likely, I'll be more than happy to. But I doubt it. I doubt they're going to talk about me, because they seem to be very intimidated. They seem to be very, very intimidated to actually come in and speak to me. I'm not sure why. I'm just a person. When's Doug coming on? Man, let me tell you. Last thing before we wrap up the show here. I heard that Doug was supposed to be on Nick's show last night, and Nick's show got shut down because he had Doug on it.
Yep.
My God. Doug's always welcome on this show. Doug TeNaples is always welcome on this show. YouTube. It would be interesting to see the fabric of reality tear and stretch with YouTube struggling to figure out if they should ban a trans person for having the hardest conservative on the planet on their show. That'd be very interesting. I mean, I've had him on the show before. They haven't removed the content. Maybe I'm just insignificant and YouTube doesn't care. No idea. Well, Amanda Miller was lots of fun to have on the show. She's great. Test of fat more than a test of wits. Absolutely. So, guys, again.
Okay. And Amanda Miller was at the premiere of
she was. The Gina
Carano's movie.
Yeah, absolutely was. So, folks, I appreciate. I love being on Power Keg Greg's show too. Having Power Keg Greg on here too. Great guy. Miss Eric Roll-on, man. He was a great guy too. But guys, I want to tell you guys, I appreciate you tuning into this show and coming back and everything else like that. If I'm not on YouTube, if I'm not live on YouTube, I'm probably live on Twitch. You guys can always hang out if you ever want to hang out and chat and whatever else. I just play video games on Twitch rather than sit here and chat at y'all. But yeah, if for whatever reason I'm not on YouTube for a week or 2 or a month, it's just likely because I don't have anything to talk about. Talking with them with one arm tied behind my back, exactly. But I'm always down to chat with people. I'd love to get Vic on the show again. I just know he's busy. He's busy a lot, and I don't know what we would have to talk about outside of stuff we've already talked about. But if he's got like a big thing planned, I'd love to have him on and he could talk about it and all that fun stuff. But yeah, like if there's any topics that you guys specifically want to hear, feel free to send me a DM on Twitter or on Discord. If it's big enough, I can make a show out of it. I definitely will. The reason I just haven't been doing shows is because there's not really a whole lot to make a show about. Not a whole lot to talk about. So it's not because I don't like you guys. I appreciate all of you. You guys are fantastic. You make the time on here worth it. So Appreciate it all. And I know I talk about Canadian politics and everyone just falls asleep and they smack their head off the porcelain. They they don't wake up for a week. So like I try to limit that stuff as much as possible, but if you guys want me to talk about it more, I'll talk about it more.
I enjoy it because it makes me forget about our politics.
Well, it's the funny enough, Canadian politics is what a lot of the left wing in the United States are striving to bring to America. So, good luck with that.
Commies.
It hasn't really been working for us for a while, but yeah, good luck with that. But Stan,
for food. It's time for food.
Exactly, it is time for food. And Stan, do you have anything before we go? Anything that we didn't touch on?
No. I like coming on here, talking with you. You know, airing out what we've been seeing and from the harpies.
Absolutely.
And I don't wish anybody to be listening to Monica and Jamie's podcast. If you want to save your ears from the bloodbath that you might be getting, but I did it for you guys, and I even did it twice. I just hope they don't do another one.
Well, it's been how long since the halftime episode?
More than a month.
Because like, it takes them like a freaking year to get one podcast out.
Yeah, their last one called Halftime. Oh God. I'm just hoping, just wishing the appeal come back so that they can grab all the recordings. Well, actually, they have already grabbed the recordings, but to use that against them, because that last one, oh man, she contradicted herself.
Oh my God. I think someone needs to go.
It is hilarious.
Somebody out there, folks, someone needs to take one for the team and make an abridged series of these podcasts. That's cut out like all of the giggling and laughing and all of the fart jokes.
OCA podcast did that, and still it was too long.
Exactly. Good Lord. The OCA podcast, they're great guys too. Go check them out. Go check out the coverage. They have been doing God's work in covering that podcast and making it as entertaining as they possibly can. And there's only so much you can do to a pile of garbage to make it entertaining. So
the only redeeming part is showing the counterpoints to whatever they're saying.
Exactly. Exactly. Good grief. So yeah, folks, thank you guys so much for hanging out. There's other stuff to talk about, I'm sure, but I just want to keep it nice and contained this time. But we'll probably have something. Maybe have something next week. Might not. Keep an eye out. But if I'm not here on YouTube next week, I'll be on Twitch. So if you guys want to hang out, you guys need something to do or need something to listen to, feel free to stop by my Twitch, twitch.tv/Crumbrion, just like it's youtube.com/Crumbrion. You guys can see me anytime you want to, within reason. So guys, thank you so much. This has been another Canuckleheads. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.